new friends, old friends, some extremely old friends who I didn't know were going to be there. I'm Elizabeth R. McClellan. I'm primarily a speculative poet, but that is not what I've brought for you this evening, because I have a poem in my series of confessional poems, because I don't have a priest and I don't have a confessor, I just have my poems. And Katie Moore and John Hancock of the Legendary are kind enough occasionally to publish them and let me tell my sins to the whole world. And this is Coal Ash and Confessional Poetry, which is forthcoming from the Legendary at downdirtyword.com. And actually, they are going to have the video from tonight, so I better not screw this up. Coal Ash and Confessional Poetry. 10 days after another snowless Christmas, I was talking to my friend about the coal ash spill of Kingsport Way. I will attest, for the record, in the many psychological show trials, the first thing we do, let's kill all the lawyers crowd would like to subject us to, broadcast live, for preference.
Hell yeah.
Going to law school makes your brain act funny, or at least brings on a weird awareness of your own funny little ways of processing. Because studies show that people can't visualize large numbers of anything. Past a certain point, your brain drops zeros, just treats 1 and 100 million as close enough for government work. Science learned this for posterity by asking people of presumably good conscience how much they donate to save 80, 8,000, 8 million birds coated in oil and dying. And for the bigger numbers, the deviation in amount, statistically insignificant. Even our dollars and cents neurons just can't parse out the difference. Your brain did not evolve to visualize 8 million birds dead at the hand of the latest big, stupid, greedy disaster. In this regard, my brain and yours are the same. I have not yet learned to see the immensity of 8 million birds, even with all this extra education. Law thinks far too little about science's strong evidence. I wonder how many people I know, how many people you know, who think they can visualize 1 million just fine, when all they're seeing is all the zeros on the check when they win the Powerball. What I've learned to think about is what the damages should be. For a loss so huge, my puny ape mind must count higher because it can't see bigger. I confess to killing defenseless critters with a ton of metal because I was careless, had the music up, didn't dip my brights. I hold all the times I nearly wrecked to avoid splattering some furred and frightened thing up before my conscience like a shield. But the coal ash spill is still killing small things in large numbers years later. And the news didn't make a pile of the rabbits and birds and lizards and all those choked and stinking fish heaped bigger than our imaginations can stand. They showed us satellite photos. Look how big. From space, this is still too big to mourn. And the 24-hour news cycle went on and let our biblical floods of ash and then water pass mostly without comment in favor of minute coverage of the latest political shenanigans. But 2 years later, further south, everyone saw the island of oil no one can walk on. The big oops of a leaking world wound bleeding all over the cable news cried, why to the oil gulls and dead seafood, ignored the answers we've had since 2008, if not before. Because I remember Exxon Valdez, you see, back when the destruction was distant, before it came home to my backyard. If I killed as many dogs with my car as mammals choking dead where progress didn't bother cleaning up its toys, they'd find a way to take my license off me. If I ignore a speed limit, I might take someone out, maybe cause the kind of pileup that makes the regional news. But when industry hits the gas pedal, revs the engine, the news takes the promo shots of the carnage from space. It is hard to argue as your job for the sense in this system to always have damages sitting in your conscience like a shiny suited shoulder devil fresh off a midnight broadcast personal injury commercial, reassuring you, we got a way to fix this. When you know what tort reform has done to that threadbare vision of making whole, like you could stitch up that scar and buy back that beauty with a big bag of cash. I remember the time when I was 9 and found actuarial tables to read, and my dad explaining how we value life for lawsuits, the body's components, segmented up like the planned cow into dollars amounts for partial loss. It was later he told me about the factory workers who know what the tip of a finger is worth, decide to go for it, to fulfill whatever desperate need can make you weigh the risk-utility of sticking your hand into a blade or a crushing weight on purpose. I was too young then to picture how little $1,000 is against electric bills and water heaters and transmissions and kids' shoes. And now damages walk with me, console me when I cross the street that at least if someone jumps the light, makes jumbled meat out of this body, there'll be a check at the end with a string of zeros, even if I'm not breathing to imagine them. All the country music stars are doing benefits for a flood, have no time for Kingsport choked in slurry, for last decade's tragedy left to baffle future archaeologists. And there are days I wish our tourist department had police powers, could just go snarling upstairs to environmental and commerce saying, listen up, assholes, in the absence of an income tax, we are still your moneymaker. We filmed your commercials that show the Yankees how pretty Tennessee is this time of year, every time of year. So they come for the leaves and the black bears, for music until dawn, floating over the mountains or the rivers, for priceless chances to see the stars that shit can't shine through as clear up there. A scar in the earth you can see from space is not the image we're going for, so cut the shit! Everyone's accountable, however you diffuse the responsibility. Whoever pays the damages, there are other reckonings, dependent as they are on a long run, as unfathomably distant as the last in a row of 88 million dead birds, laid end to end to end. Thank you.